But I think if a person is thinking about identity, and they're thinking about motivation, and they're thinking about, wanting to know where am I best fitted in my career choice from now on.
Yeah.
Step into the Enneagram, understand yourself. I can tell you from my own perspective, from my own self, not just the work I do with other people, but from my own self. The more I learned about myself in the Enneagram, the better I was aware. So bringing self-awareness helps me to make better choices for myself, helps me to get into the right lane in my work, helps me to understand why I'm doing some of the things that I don't know why I'm doing them. Yeah. Oh, now that makes so much sense. I don't have to do that anymore, perhaps.
All right, guys, welcome to the House of Entrepreneurs. Today, you are in for a treat. You're in for a treat. I have my guest today is a very, very good friend of mine. We've known each other for over 10 years. She's a licensed counselor. She's a teacher. She's a mother. She has, she's done a lot of work in Africa. She's done all these many things. She's a founder of an organization called Lighthouse Training and Counseling Organization. She's my former boss. Man, I'm so happy to have my guest, and I want to let her introduce herself to you. And today what we'll be talking about how the Enneagram can help us to be better entrepreneurs, better leaders, and I'm really so pumped about what she's going to be sharing with us, because I have a feeling that today you're going to be a better leader, a better person, a better entrepreneur as a result of what she's going to be sharing. And so I'm really excited about my friend, my very, very good friend that I've known for a long time. She's also an Enneagram coach, and she'll be telling us more about that. And so welcome Kelly to the House of Entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah. This is a great opportunity. I'm excited to be with you and be a part of this experience with you. It's awesome. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, tell us where you are right now.
Currently I'm in Victoria, BC, Canada, actually. In the far west coast in British Columbia in Canada. So just landed here recently moving here from Rwanda, Africa, actually. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're excited to, a little bit colder than where I'm from usually, but nice to be on this side of the world.
Yeah. And how long have you done counseling? If you don't mind just telling my.
Sure. That's a great question. I used to always say to my husband, it was like 15 years, and he said I said that for about 5 years. So it must be up to 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
20 years as a counselor.
Yes.
What has been like the most fun bit about being a counselor?
Fun bit about being a counselor, getting paid? No, just kidding. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
No, and the way I've been doing counseling, I haven't been paid much anyway. So no, the best part about being a counselor actually is seeing lives change and seeing lives being transformed. It's to be a part of helping someone see themselves differently.
Yeah.
And to be a part of seeing someone get a better sense of themselves or increase their identity. To me, that's the most rewarding part of the work that I do. So couples work is my favorite. So I usually, when couples are starting to work better together and they having better relationships, that part's really awesome for me too. So
yeah. And you've done, I know we work together, and you've done a lot of work in Africa. Would you please share with us some of that?
Sure.
Work?
Yeah. So I lived where Marvin and I know each other from, where we know each other from is living in Rwanda together, actually. And so I lived there for 12 years, and I started a counseling organization, as you mentioned, Lighthouse Counseling and Training Center. I was providing professional counseling services there. I was supervising my clinical staff, and also I designed a 6-month lay counseling program that I trained over 500 lay counselors over 12 years. And then most recently, I've been doing that with my husband as well, and we've been running that organization together. And and I also did counseling here in Canada. Now I'm back to perhaps getting back into that on this side of the world now too. So. You want me to say more about that?
Are you still doing let's say if someone wanted to connect with you, are you still taking on clients if someone
Yes.
wanted to connect
Sure.
with you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a private practice on this side. Some people are actually still accessing me from Rwanda actually as well. So I'm doing a lot of online counseling. I know that that's kind of the trend these days, is especially post-COVID, is a lot of people want to do mental health counseling via online. I do counseling online. I do it on Zoom. I do it on WhatsApp. It sounds funny to do it on WhatsApp, but I have done clients on WhatsApp before. People love that because they can get a full feed of what they've been talking about for their entire session. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, if people want to get a hold of me, they can contact me directly. I can give you that information at the end or now, whenever you want it. But yeah, absolutely. I'm open to seeing clients. Probably going to take a couple weeks before I get settled on this side, but then I'm definitely open to seeing clients for couples work, individuals. I do family work, but that's a lot harder online. And I do Enneagram coaching too. So.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the Enneagram and how it's a good tool for leadership, for entrepreneurs, and would you please help us understand what the Enneagram, as an assessment tool is?
Sure. So the Enneagram is very different from a lot of other assessment tools. I think we might think of things like Myers-Briggs or the colors or the, various different types of other assessment tools that people often look at for looking at behavior. The difference between that and the Enneagram is that the Enneagram is more looking at motivations and belief systems. It's focused on about identity and getting back to our core identity rather than the behaviors that we often demonstrate in life. And so the Enneagram is looking at, like, as I said, the motivations and beliefs, which are very different than sometimes our behavior. We might be motivated by something, but we might demonstrate that differently through our behavior. And so if we look at motivations, that is a more of a core related thing for most people. And so that's going to be the difference between that and a different type of behavior kind of assessment tool. So the other thing about the Enneagram is that it looks at 9 different points. It's kind of a graph, and the Enneagram itself just means 9 and a gram. So it's a graph. So 9 is the amount of numbers that are on the Enneagram, and each number represents a certain different type of motivation and a certain focus of belief systems. In the simplified version, there's also more complex. The more you know about the Enneagram, the deeper you get, the more you understand about it. But the more simplistic understanding at this point is there's 9 different points, and there's 9 different strong motivations that a lot of people would identify with in their in themselves. Yeah.
Is there I know we might not, for those that want to get into details, and we'll share your contacts or your details so that those that want to get into the details can connect with you. But in a nutshell, would you tell us maybe the motivation of those from 1 to 9,
Sure.
and who they are, who a 1 is, who a 2 is, and just kind of, yeah.
Sure. Before I get into that, I would even say that the Enneagram is separated into 3 distinct sections, I would call it. Let's call it a section. So there's the heart center, or they're also called centers. That's really what they're actually referred to as. So the triads are the heart center, the head center, and the gut or the action center. And so often we're looking at first of all, what's our core motivation? Are we motivated to make decisions in life out of our heart, out of our head, or out of our gut, or kind of our, an action related area? So the first thing about when you're looking at the Enneagram, when you're trying to find anything out or learning about it at all, the person needs to first assess themselves. Do I make most of my decisions in life based on how I feel about it, based on how I think about it, or this kind of gut sense, this gut knowing? And if a person has that gut knowing, they know what I mean when I say that. You just got this sense yeah, that's what I know what I'm supposed to do. So that's the first kind of understanding of the Enneagram, is that it's these 3 centers, and that's what the first thing we need to look at. So each center has three different numbers represented in those areas. So if we start in something like the heart center, that's the number. So if we go around, if you draw a circle, people can look up this graph online. The Enneagram picture is very easy to assess on a Google search or something like that. So if you look at number 2, that we're not going to look at number 1 first. I know that seems backwards, but we skipped a number. But the heart center is number 2, 3, and 4. Oh. So the number 2 is actually looks at, they're motivated in life by love and service. 2s, people who identify as a 2, make decisions in life or are motivated in life, or what they do in their life is dominantly motivated by love and service. So when a 2, actually, I will say that I'm a 2. So it's very easy for me to talk about 2s as I know it myself for who I am. Yeah. When I'm making decisions in my life, I'm very much a heart-centered person. So I make a lot of decisions in my life as a 2 by how I feel about them. I'm motivated in life to do things for other people through love and service. What I'm often thinking about is how I can help other people. Funny enough, I'm a therapist, so kind of the great profession for a love and service oriented person. Yeah. So without getting into too much of the detail about that, that would be the motivation for what a 2 is interested in, and how they go through life. Now, every number has its own highs or strengths and also weaknesses. Yeah. So a 2 is very much oriented, I said, about love and service, but they can also love people in order to get love back. So there's kind of the weakness side, and that's just some basic understanding about it. So there's the parts of every number that we're going to come across that are like, this is the great part about my number. And then there's the parts of us that we kind of go, ugh, or the yucky parts, which often means that's probably my number. You know, like, I know that in myself, I do give love to get love. And that was a hard thing to realize as a 2. And so that's the motivation of the 2. That's a really basic understanding. A 3, also in that heart center, is motivated by success or achievement. Now, it seems very funny for a heart-oriented person.
And you said that a 2 is a helper, right? It's called a helper.
It's called the helper. It's also known as the love center. So okay. You can call them the helper. That's a good thing to call it. Yeah, number 2 would be called the helper. Okay. And then the number 3 is motivated by achievement and success, or they're called the achiever at times. Okay. And so what they're motivated by in life is success. They're motivated by making sure that they're very educated people. They're often highly academic individuals. They have a high sense of people that I know that are 3s often have multiple degrees, and they have they've been very successful in life. They're often very well dressed people as well. Yeah. They love presenting very well in life, and so they're motivated by how they're perceived in the world, by the achievements that they do and the success that they have. So that's very important to them. And the flip side of the 3, though, sometimes, and this is, as I said, there's a little bit. I'll just give a small snippet into all of them, but yeah, the 3 can sometimes be a little bit self-centered. Might be a good way to describe the 3. They sometimes get a bit more focused on themselves, though they look like they're wanting to show up in the world, but they're sometimes get a bit more focused on self a bit. So, and then there's the 4, and I'll just describe this and then I'll say a little bit more about it. So the 4 is motivated by depth and creativity. The 4, so all the numbers have a different, some depending on the version that you're reading or you're digging into, each one could have a different type of name associated by it. But the motivation are these ones that I'm talking about. So the 4 is creative and depth. And so what they're focused on in life is they're often focused on beauty and creativity. They want to be unique. They want to be special. They want to be seen in this world as different. And they really are motivated. They're very much motivated by romance and beauty. These people have beautiful decorations all over their house, and they love sunsets, and they just love beautiful things. But they're also very, very deep people. Like, they love depth of conversation. They also make very good counselors. They don't mind getting into darkness. So their flip side sometimes is this melancholic kind of dark brooding part of their personality or their life at times. So they often are missing something. They feel like they're missing out on the world at times. And they often have a deep longing for something else. And so this is the heart center. So all of those sound very different, don't they? We got the love person, we have the achievement person, the success person, and then this deep and creative person. Yeah. So they all sound different, but they all are motivated by the heart. And so it's all motivated by feelings and emotions, and it just comes out differently for each person. So of those three also, there's something called a vice. There's a vice that they're trying to avoid. There's a part of them, each of the people in the heart center are trying to avoid something called shame. And so they, 2s, 3s, and 4s are like, the longing of their heart is to be known and seen and experienced and felt, but they're often showing up in behaviors to avoid shame that they actually feel on a very deep level. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but that's like, as a 2, I'll go back to the 2 for just a moment. As a 2, I'm motivated by love. I want to show up in the world and serve people and help people and do things for people. But if I never did something for someone else again in my life, would I still be okay? That's the question of the 2, because there's that shame around identity. And so that Enneagram is really going to look into identity and core identity of people. So the shame piece is something that seems to be something that the 2s, 3s, and 4s are very much running away from or trying to avoid in their life. And so as a person gets healthier in their Enneagram, as they start to understand their identity deeper, again, this is just brushing the surface for what I'm teaching tonight. But when they're okay, they can get maybe more in touch with their shame. That's part of it. So would you like to say anything? I didn't want to, you look like you might want to ask a question.
No, I was going to ask the shame. You said it's connected to identity, like the shame is connected to identity, right?
Yeah. So the shame is so often, yes, it's connected to identity. So let me explain it a little deeper. For a 2, my core understanding of myself is that there's this hard part about, there's original blessing. If I can talk from maybe even a spiritual perspective, if that's okay. Yeah. So there's 3 kind of main areas of our identity that have started a long time ago. Like if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, I believe in God's design. And so God designed us originally with 3 initial or original blessings. And the original blessing for people that are 2s, 3s, and 4s is that you're created very good. God said that when he created everything, that it was good. And then when he created man, and he said it was very good. And so there's this part of 2s, 3s, and 4s that have a hard time believing that we're created very good. There's something in us that is a struggle for us to believe that. And so we try and show up in the world to, for a 2, they're gonna keep loving and serving and helping, and a 3 is going to keep achieving and try and show the world that they're somebody. And the 4 is going to be more creative and show up artistically at times, or through beauty, or through being special. Because that's when the core belief of being created very good is not fully understood within the heart, there's where the shame center comes in. I don't believe that to be true, and so I feel ashamed of that. And it's not always cognitive. It's very, very, subjective. And so what happens is that when a person is that shame gets triggered, they're going to be like, okay, I can keep showing up by doing this. I can show the world that I am very good if I keep loving or serving or achieving or bringing depth and creativity to the world. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So then, just to get into the next section, because there's so much in the Enneagram. It's very hard to go through it all in a short period of time, but
Yeah.
just for,
Yeah, I know it has like wings. The three has a wing, but we're not going to get into that. I just want like exactly what you were explaining. Yeah.
that was the simplified version. And then there's the wings, as you talked about. Then there's also, each number has there's 3 subsections of each number as well. So there's so much learning, a person could do it for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But for purposes of this evening, I think that's the simplicity of the 2s, 3s, and 4s. That's the heart center. Now we're going to look at the head center, which are 5, 6s, and 7s. So the next number along that is the 5. And the 5 is part of the head triad, or the head center. So these people are making decisions in life, and they're motivated by things that they think about. They're more thinking-oriented people. The first group were more predominantly showing up as feeling-oriented people, and the 5, 6s, and 7s are showing up more as thinking people. So 5s are really motivated by knowledge and wisdom. These are the people in life that they're the rarest of anybody on the Enneagram, by the way.
Oh.
They're the rarest number. And they are very much, they don't need relationships as much as other people in the Enneagram. They are more, I would even call them maybe more introverted people, but they're very much, they're very absorbed into knowledge and wisdom. They're very intellectual people. They think a lot, they read a lot, and they're very motivated in life by more knowledge and more wisdom. And one thing that's the flip side for the 5 is often they're unattached. They don't get attached to people. They don't need people as much as maybe other numbers in the Enneagram do. So they consider them to be almost a detached person, where maybe other numbers would be more of an attached person. This is more of a detached person. And so their way of coming back to, a true identity is learning how to attach and trust and connect again with people. So there's always that, again, there's the strength, and then there's the weakness of each one. And then there's the 6. And the 6 is motivated. They have very much a dichotomy. They're known as the loyal skeptic. The 6 is so motivated by loyalty. These are the people that will give you the shirt off their own back. They are motivated in life by how much they can, they will connect, they will stand firm. They are your friend that is going to be stronger than a brother. And yet they're also incredibly skeptical. These people have conspiracy theories often. They're skeptical, they're worried, they're fearful about a lot of things. And one of the things the 6 really struggles with is fear. A lot of fear and anxiety is what goes on for the 6 at times. And yet they have this incredible ability within themselves to be very high achievers in certain areas. So they might be really strong in a certain field. And they're very loyal to that field. They're very loyal to that career. They're very loyal to that calling. They might have a lot of fears and skepticism about things, so it's a very interesting, the 6s are in a very unique individuals I guess everybody is very unique on the Enneagram, but they're motivated in life by loyalty, 100% faithfulness, loyalty, and they stick beside you. The 6s that I've known, they're the people they're the most faithful. Faithful in relationships, faithful in workplaces, faithful in friendship. But you don't want to wrong a 6 either, because they can eventually turn around at some point as well. But they have a strong underlying issue of fear as well. And then there's the 7s. 7s are motivated by joy, freedom, spontaneity. These people have ideas after ideas after ideas after ideas. I'm married to a 7. He's fantastic. But he's
a 7.
Pardon me?
You said your husband is a 7.
Yes, he's a 7. He's a super 7 sometimes. No, There's some that are super 7s, and they have ideas after ideas. They're the people that are always coming up with something new. They don't like boredom. They don't like to be tied down. They don't want to be put in a box. They certainly love freedom and spontaneity, and they're creatives to the point where they're always coming up with a new idea to share with other people or to do. Their vice, though, in a lot of ways, is gluttony. It's like they consume. They want so much of like something new and exciting and intense, and sometimes it can be food related or drinking related, but it can also be like just a new experience or a new joyful time. And so what happens then for these that are the 5, 6s, and 7s, the thinkers, they're also often, you know, as I said, 2, 3s, and 4s are running away from shame. 5, 6s, and 7s are often running away from fear. So they don't want, you know, the 7 might be fearful of boredom and fearful of not being, not having the most exciting life, fearful of being tied down to something that they don't want. A 6 is fearful of many things. They're fearful of a lot of people. They're fearful of people betraying them. They're fearful of trust. And the 5 is like fearful of being, I think in a lot of ways, being pinned down into relationships or not having the knowledge and the wisdom that they long for. So often every number is trying to find their true sense, right? But when I talked to you a bit about the original blessing for 5, 6s, and 7s, if we go back with the spiritual model or the biblical model, God said in the beginning, all I have is yours. All I have is already yours. And so the 6s and the 5s and the 7s, 5, 6s, and 7s, they have a harder time believing that. They're trying to show up in the world to show that part of their identity, which is that I have, what is it that I have? Whether I have loyalty or whether I have wisdom or whether I have joy. If the true identity was actually believed that all I have already is already mine because God has already given it to me, then I wouldn't have to keep proving myself through another fun experience, or proving myself through loyalty, or proving myself through more wisdom. Actually, already, if I could sit in my true identity, it would be that I already have it because God has already given it to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing when you can get back into the true identity of things. And that's where I love living there. It's like, if we can get into that core identity, not about behavior, but core identity, it's amazing if we can. Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, so the 2s and the 3s are love and feeling motivated
by feelings.
By
their
feeling.
Heart. 2s, 3s, and 4s.
Yeah,
2s, 3s, and 4s are heart.
But the
5, 6s, and 7s.
The underlying device is shame.
Correct.
They're running away from shame.
Correct.
And then the 4s, 5s, and the 6.
5, 6s, and 7s.
5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
You know, there's fear that is underlying in their head. You know, they do everything from the head. You know, it's head knowledge and thinking. They are thinkers.
Yes.
But what they're running away from is they actually don't believe that what they have is already,
God has already given to them. Yeah.
That God has already given to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. And the 2s, 3s, and 4s is identity around who I am as a person. Like, am I really very good? Right. So when I don't believe that to be true, I'm going to try and show that to the world through doing stuff to show everybody that I am very good.
Yeah.
You know, and this 5, 6s, and 7s are going to be like, all I have, you know, so they're really focused on what they do have. You know, how do I show that to the rest of the world? Safety and security is very important for 5, 6s, and 7s. Affection and esteem is very important for 2s, 3s, and 4s. And so now, if we just for sake of time, I wanted to get into the next section, which is the gut-oriented or action-oriented triad, and that's 8s, 9s, and 1s. And so 8s, 9s, and 1s are they're a very unique group because they seem very different, although I guess every triad seems very different from each other. It's funny that we group them into these areas that are motivated by similar things, but how they demonstrate that is very different. So 8s are known as the power, or they're motivated by power. These are like the CEOs of companies. These are leaders. They're very dominant, strong individuals who run companies and, you know, Fortune 500 places. And like, they're the CEOs of most companies. That's what they're kind of motivated by. They're leaders. And yet they're also motivated. They really have a strong sense of injustice. They really fight for underdogs and against injustice. They're they never want to see people be wounded or having unjust things happen to them. The vice of the eight though is that they have a sense of if you wrong an eight, it can be problematic for you. They are, if you're motivated by power and you take the power away, the eight can be quite vengeful at times. And so that's their opposite side. So they want to do great things for many people by running companies and taking care of the marginalized and people that are going through injustice. But they also, if they get wronged by someone, they have this kind of vengeful side to them. And then there's the lovely nines. Do you know any nines, Marvin?
Let me see. Nines. Yeah, I think I know someone who's
Nines are very peaceful people. Nines are motivated by peace. They are peacekeepers. They are people that are very loyal. They stick with people. They are sometimes the nines get the rap of being like doormats, but they're not. You can't make a nine do something they don't want to do. Nine is never going to actually do something that they don't want to do. They will always be looking for peace, though. The one thing about nines, though, is sometimes they forget about themselves. They have a tendency to be not caring about self at times, and sometimes they do things slowly. The great thing for nines, though, is when they move into action. When a nine is moving into action, they're starting to take care of themselves. And so they're the peacekeepers, as I said. So we got eights are power, nines are peace, and then we have ones that are perfection. They're motivated by doing things perfectly, and they have a very strong sense of principles for things. They have a sense of right and wrong. There's wrong ways to do things. There's right ways to do things. And ones are very good at, they're great in organizations because they're the ones that are going to make sure that everything is done very well. And the nine is going to be the one that's making sure that everybody is okay with everybody else. And then the eight is going to be the one that's making sure that the organization is running well, the leader of the organization. So you can start to see these people, like that was your first question, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs and using this in the workplace. Yeah. When you can start to see what people are motivated by in the workplace, you can start to build a team that has got strengths of all the numbers. That would be so great if you had people that could be the helpers along with the people who are going to do it perfectly. You got the sevens who are going to bring in some joy, the fives who are going to bring in some wisdom. You got the fours who are going to bring in some creativity and some specialness. Nines are going to make sure everybody's getting along. You know, all of this would be such a great team if you could have it all together.
Yeah.
So the eights, nines, and ones, though, they have an underlying issue of they're running away from anger. And it's hard for a lot of eights, nines, and ones to even acknowledge that they have anger inside of them that they're trying to avoid or not get in touch with. Eights will be more outwardly angry. Nines will be very internally angry, more so at, they might be angry at other people, but they would keep that inside often. And ones will be very conflicted but theirs would be more of an internal anger as well. So they're gut-oriented people. They are making decisions in life by what they think. What they sense. They have this sense, this knowing, this, I know that that's what I'm supposed to do. That's how a nine would describe it, or an eight or a one would describe how they make decisions. And for them, the original blessing, is that they're co-heirs with Christ. They have purpose. They already have purpose. They don't have to keep showing up for making purpose. Like an eight's going to show you that they have purpose by being the CEO, the leader. The nine's going to show up by showing that they have purpose by making sure that everything is peaceful, that things are going well. And the one's going to show up by showing that they have purpose by making sure that everything is going perfectly and going well. And so everybody on the Enneagram has both strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Everybody
is motivated by something different. Though they're the triads that go around, the heart, the head, and the gut, each one has a unique specialized motivation, specialized weaknesses, even though that they might have similarities like shame, fear, and anger as well. That's a very quick kind of overview. Do you have any questions you want to ask about it?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that clarification. No, just that it's like mini detailed explanation. But I wanted, I know you mentioned it, but I want you to help me understand again, like, because this is it's like I won't say it's a conflict, but it's people ask us, how is it different from these other assessment tools like the Myers, especially Myers is like almost the most common, you know, there's the Myers, the DISC, and the color coded, all these. How is it like different from, especially the Myers?
Sure. So what I was mentioning a bit in the beginning was that there's the difference between behavior and motivation.
Yes.
Behavior means like I might be a 2 that's motivated by love, but my behavior might actually look more like, often for me, I look more like a 7.
Yeah.
My behavior shows up like a 7. I look like I'm spontaneous. I want fun. I want to do crazy things. I want to fly across the world and live in Africa for 12 years. You know, like I look more like a 7 at times because my behavior would show those things. But what I'm motivated by is different. I'm motivated by love and service. And so when you're looking at something like the Myers-Briggs, which I do love that too, I think it's great. But it's looking at introverted versus extroverted. They're looking at more behavioral models rather than core identity or core motivation. So if we're only looking at this as a therapist, if we're only looking at behavior for people, we're only looking at a limited piece to their complexity. If you're looking at identity and you're looking at motivation, it's very different. It's a deeper aspect of a person rather than just how I behave. We do a lot of behavior modification in life, right? Where someone's has a behavior issue of some sort. Perhaps they have an addiction, or they are not nice to people, or something like that. And we want to change their behavior, so we help them to modify their behavior. That is one aspect to a person. Whereas if we're looking at identity and we're looking at motivation, it's a deeper aspect to a person. And that's more core, which is going to change a person on a deeper level than just looking at behavior alone, if that makes sense. So that's the difference between something like a behavior model or looking at a personality assessment of focusing on behavior rather than looking at an assessment tool that's looking at kind of the deeper core, maybe more spiritual, emotional ways a person does things in life. And that's why I really love the Enneagram. I've always been a big fan of Myers-Briggs as well, or other personality tests. But for the Enneagram for myself, when I started to learn this, for me, it was like, this is core. This is really deep understanding of self and motivation. And I think that when we can kind of start to do some change in those areas and start to come back to true identity, that's when things can really make changes in our lives.
Thank you. So that makes more sense. So how would you think the Enneagram would help entrepreneurs or leaders to leverage their strength in their maybe leadership capacities?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
How would you think that the Enneagram would help entrepreneurs, to leverage their strength, in either as an entrepreneur or as a leader?
Yeah, sure. I think that for what I think about the Enneagram is that when a person, any person, starts to understand why they're motivated in life to do things, it really helps them to line up what their career will be. So when a person I'll go back to being a 2. When I already was in my field, but when I understood that I was a 2, now that makes sense as to why I want to be a counselor, why I want to be a helper, why I'm so motivated by serving other people. Maybe a person is like a 7. They're great entrepreneurs, by the way, because they have so many ideas and exciting things. And so I think that when you start to I believe this about anything. When you start to understand more about yourself,
Yeah.
it gives you the ability to kind of figure out where you're going next.
Mm.
So a lot of people in life are actually in perhaps the wrong job. I think people are in the wrong field. They're in the wrong, I talked to a guy many, many years ago who was serving in a church in the children's ministry. He had no giftings in the children's ministry, but felt like that's where he was supposed to be. And so when he took some sort of personality test and realized that his giftings had nothing to do with children and they had everything to do with administration, he stopped being in the children's ministry and got into the administrative roles in the church. And so that was called there was a program called networking was what that kind of assessment tool was. But I think that when you come to understanding yourself in the Enneagram, you understand your identity better, you understand your motivations, you're going to get yourself aligned into work that kind of aligns yourself with that. You're going to become an entrepreneur in those fields that kind of work with you, kind of connect with who you are as a person.
That made so much sense. But also, I like the fact that you alluded to the fact that when you're building a team, I think it also helps you as a leader.
Yeah.
To build a team and not have only, let's say, 9s in an organization,
yeah.
and have have 8s. Once you know that you're a 2, then okay, now I need maybe I need a 4, or I need an 8. I need those. I think that's a way also of leveraging. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think that's a very important part of it. I mean, I think if you have a bunch of 8s in an organization, you're going to have a lot of leaders, but you're not going to get a lot accomplished because you're going to be like, everybody wants to be in charge, right? Yeah. You need to have a 8 or maybe 2 8s. But if you have more than, you're not going to, it's all going to be about power and leadership. And you're not going to get some of those tasks done that need to be done. You need some 1s in there. You need some 9s for peacemaking. You need some 1s to make sure things are done properly. You need to have some 2s in there that are going to love on everybody and serve people, So the way you can build your team by understanding those things is going to be much more beneficial. Now, sometimes people say you shouldn't use the Enneagram to build a team. I think it's okay. I think it's really helpful because the more you know the people that are in your team, the better you can all work together as well. So, yeah.
Do you think now that you've just said that, some people don't agree that you should
use it.
Building your team on the Enneagram. Do you think the Enneagram has a few limitations here and there?
I think the reason people have said that in the past is because it's looking at motivation, right? And so we don't want to use it as a way to only build a team that's the perfect team for us. They don't want to use it as a manipulation tool, I guess. I've never agreed with that particularly. I think it could be great. But then you also don't want to just screen people based on, are you a 3? Are you a 4? Are you a 5?
Yeah.
You don't want to, especially in certain areas.
It's like you have a notebook and then say, oh, no, I think I don't need a 3. I need a 2,
I need a 2.
Yeah, that will create some bias,
And that's what they were saying. That's what a lot of people say about that. So even once you've already established a team, then giving them the Enneagram, testing, people can do that online and can test themselves for Enneagram. That's better, they would say, because you are working within the confines that you already have. When I did my training, they told us you could never put the Enneagram test on a interview process or because they didn't want people to be building teams just on, oh, okay, you're an 8. No, we don't need that anymore. We're looking for 3s only, Right. So it's good to do it as assessment for the people that you already are working with. Yeah. So the people that you have. But people can do whatever they want when they're building their own practice, or their own organization. But it certainly does help to understand the people in your team. And when you know the people in your team, or as a relationship specialist, when you know the people that you're married to or you're in a partnership with, when you understand that they're motivated by things that are different than you, it's amazing to be able to work better, you know. And I think that that's what happens in organizations as well. Oh, Bob is not just a power hungry guy. He's motivated by leadership and power. Oh, that makes so much more sense. He's not just trying to take over the company. He's literally motivated by power, not in a bad way. Like he's just motivated by that, and he's already driven in that way, you know. And so, and Sally's quiet and is in the back corner, but man, she's always doing all the research, right? So she's not just a wallflower. She's actually motivated by doing all the research and the wisdom within the organization. So you start using the people within your organization to help build a stronger team. Rather than it being something to separate people, it becomes an understanding and an acknowledgement of others, rather than it be something to divide people.
So that means, would you communicate differently with each number? Let's say if you're a leader, do you have to communicate differently with, if you have those, if you know, okay, Sally is a 5, you know, the thinker, right? And Bob is an 8 power.
Yeah.
How do you communicate to those people? Let's say, especially with conflict resolution.
Yeah, it's a very big, important part. If you understand that people are motivated by different things, you're going to talk to them differently, right? I'm not going to talk to an 8 like, so, you know, I'm wondering if you would be interested in doing things slightly differently than you did before. You know, an 8's going to be like, get a backbone and talk to me like a person, right? Like, but if I talk to Sally that way, Sally, I need you to kind of get yourself together, pull up your bootstraps. It's time to get things done.
Yeah.
Sally might be like, oh, you know, like,
yeah.
I can you, she might not be able to take it that way. And neither would a 9. The peaceful 9 is not going to like it when you're very direct and aggressive with them.
Yeah.
Right. You might need to talk to them in a different way when you know what they're motivated by. So definitely the more you understand people and the more you understand their motivations, the way you're interacting with them is going to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And in conflict resolution,
Yeah.
you have to understand that people are like, so some people are conflict averse and some people are conflict maybe embracers. And so someone like an 8 might be a more conflict embracing person. They're fine with conflict. 3s might be more combative and a bit more, they're going to want to do what you want them to do anyways. But someone like a 2 might be like very nervous about being directly aggressively attacked by somebody, especially a 6. A 6 is like, they're already fearful. So if you're going to be direct and aggressive with them, they're going to feel really bad, right? So you need to be able to talk to people based on how you already understand what they're motivated by in life. So I think that it can be a way to help with conflict, understanding that not everybody's going to handle a conflict like an 8 does, and certainly not everybody's going to run away from conflict like a 6 does. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So how maybe let's talk about like work-life balance. How do these numbers like value work-life balance, if at all they do?
I think that's very unique for each person. So it depends on, as again, it's their motivation, right? So not every 3 and every 2 and every 1 is going to look the same. As I said before, there's 3 kind of subcategories of each one as well. So not everybody is going to look at those exactly the same way. I can speak of, you know, for someone like when you're getting healthier, your work-life balance is probably going to look different. That when you're not trying to show up in the world to avoid shame, fear, and anger, that when you understand yourself better, when you're more connected with yourself, your work-life balance is going to be different. I can talk about it from a 2 perspective. When I was an unhealthy 2, because all numbers have an unhealthy version, a moderate version, and a healthy version. So I would say that when I was an unhealthy 2, I was seeing 30, 40 clients a week. I was not taking care of myself. I was not doing any self-care. I was certainly running as fast as I possibly could to show up in the world as a great helper and a service-oriented love person. I would give so much of myself and expect that people would give things back to me. And I would never get my needs met because I would also not verbally speak about what I needed. Because with a 2, you have this expectation that somebody is going to just understand that they're going to love you the same way you've loved them. So as I've gotten healthier, my work-life balance has very much dramatically changed. I don't have to see that many clients anymore. I understand that I am good enough already that, it's still something that people work through, I think, on a lifetime, but it's my perspective of myself and my own work-life balance has shifted dramatically when I understood that I didn't have to keep showing up in the world by continually loving and serving everybody, that I am good enough just as me.
Yeah.
And now I shift into doing the things I want to do. My husband and I talk often about what kind of a therapist do I want to be? I'm also not going to see every type of client anymore. I've been doing this for a long time. I know myself better. And so now I'm choosing the type of clientele that I want to see, like the specialty areas that I want to work in, rather than just doing everything for everybody all the time. So I think that that's maybe a good example of work-life balance that's switched as a person starts to understand their own self better. When you start to understand your core motivation and your identity better, and that, oh, actually, I am very good even if I never do this anymore, then maybe I can start to adjust who I am and then show up in my strengths rather than showing up trying to show the world that I'm good, and that's what a 2 would actually do. So as I've learned that part of myself, I really started to kind of dial it back more, and I see less clients, and I take more care of myself, and I'm, as I said, even in the beginning, I'm taking some time off right now just to kind of regroup. And I think that historically I wouldn't have done that, because if you're motivated by love and service, you better do that as much as possibly can.
No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, and we are almost, coming to an end, but so I want you to help me, give an example of, okay, and each number with an example of like a profession that they are good at,
Okay.
like ones are good at maybe administration, and then 2s are the people that you usually find in
helping professions.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Well, 2s, good counselors. Easy enough.
Oh my gosh. Like, I know, like, people need to know that you are an amazing counselor.
Thank you.
Like, I would vouch for you, and
thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you'll share your details later, and like, people who need counseling, they should contact you as soon as possible.
Thanks, Marvin.
Because you've done this for a long time. 20 years is not,
it's not a small amount of time.
Yeah, you've seen almost every kind of client out there. So I'm sure there's no very much unique situation that people that are listening to us or seeing us, will come that you haven't yet seen, So yeah.
Sometimes people think they surprise me, and then I'll be like, no. But I believe everybody's unique.
I know, yeah.
3s are often really good at they're high achievers, so they can do a diverse amount of things. They often have multiple degrees in things, so they can be good in administration. They can be they have a very diverse way of kind of working. The 3s I know, there's a lot of 3s in Rwanda actually. They're working in areas of helping as well, human resources, administration, things that are highly successful areas are usually where they're kind of showing up. Pastors, a lot of pastors are 3s, achievement related. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've known a lot of 3 pastors as well. 4s, because they're looking for specialness and uniqueness, they're often artists, musicians, comedians, a lot of in the creative world, a lot of fives, I mean, a lot of fours are. They're they're the people that want purpose. So they really want to have a strong purpose for what they're making a difference in people's lives. So they do missions work as well. So do twos. Fives are often researchers. They can be professors. They're very high wisdom oriented people. So when they can communicate wisdom well, they're in those high knowledge based jobs as well. Teachers, professors, lawyers, perhaps. Yeah. Sixes are often in helping professions as well. Sixes that I know are often in medical professions, like nursing, health. I also know some that are Enneagram coaches, actually. But they're very loyal people. So wherever they're going to work, they're going to stay there for a long time. Sevens are entrepreneurs, most of them. They are business people. They're hustlers, they're chasers, they're doing 15 different jobs at the same time. My husband has 5 or 6 different careers that he pursues at one time, and and he's good at all of them. That's the thing about sevens. Every single thing that they do, they're good at. So there's nothing that they put their mind to that they're not good at. Eights are often the leaders. They're CEOs. They're leading companies, as I said before. Nines are running, YouTube shows or nursing or
they're helping you in conflict resolution.
Yes, they're helping you with conflict resolution. They're very much in the helping related fields often as well. They're social workers or they're counselors as well. They love to have
peace here.
Can we just have some peace here, please? They're peacekeepers. They work for the UN.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ones are like administrators a lot of the time. They want to do things very well, so they're the people that are doing things that are very meticulous. Lawyers, very for sure, are ones often. Accountants are ones often. The people that are very methodical in how they do their work. So a lot of people it's a very structured kind of methodical way of doing things. A lot of them would be ones. So if that gives a little bit of understanding about that, but not everything is always, like I said, it's very unique to each person, but those are some of the things I've seen people that are in those numbers are kind of doing.
So please talk to a leader or an entrepreneur who is, thinking of knowing their number, but they're still not yet sure. And, because I know after this, please share your details and how they can get to you, how they can connect with you. Yeah. So please share with like a leader or an entrepreneur or someone who is aspiring to, to be either a leader or an entrepreneur, or they just want to know, but they are still not sure, is this Enneagram thing, real, or I've had, maybe I've had a few things that I connect with, but I'm not still yet sure about, the Enneagram. Yeah.
Sure. First of all, you can take an online test if you want. There's an option. You can go online and take a test. The test is just going to give you some basic understanding of yourself. You can go on the Enneagram Institute and take a test. You can call me and we can do the test together. We can do definitely Enneagram coaching around it. But I think if a person is thinking about identity and they're thinking about motivation and they're thinking about, wanting to know where am I best fitted in my career choice from now on.
Yeah.
Step into the Enneagram, understand yourself. I can tell you from my own perspective, from my own self, not just the work I do with other people, but from my own self. The more I learned about myself in the Enneagram, the better I was aware. So bringing self-awareness helps me to make better choices for myself, helps me to get into the right lane in my work, helps me to understand why I'm doing some of the things that I don't know why I'm doing them. Yeah. Oh, now that makes so much sense. I don't have to do that anymore, perhaps. So I think that if anybody wants to get more into the Enneagram, do an online test or call me and we can set up a time to talk through these things. We can set up some sessions and do some coaching around it. But if any of what I've talked about today is niggling somebody, that means there's some level of interest in you. So
Yes.
follow through with it. You know, if
Yeah.
this is like, oh, this kind of tickles my brain or makes me think about myself or I want to understand more, step into it. It's life changing.
Mm.
It's life changing for sure.
Would you please maybe give them your email address if they wanted to?
The one I've had for 25 years, kellyjgirl@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And you can also have my local number if people want to call me.
Yeah.
So they can, it's 778 967 2334. 778 967 2334. And we can set up some sessions or whatever. I'm going to be working through an organization. We're getting our website set up very soon. So I won't be seeing clients until the beginning of February. But if people are interested, they can call ahead and we can book sessions.
And these are either clients for Enneagram coaching or counseling.
Counseling, couples work, mental health, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much for helping us be better leaders, be better entrepreneurs, and I'm sure someone is going to, there's a bulb that has gone off on someone's mind, and they're thinking about it, and I'm sure people will be contacting you, and yes, really thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much for teaching us about the Enneagram, and I want to request those of you that have been watching to leave me a comment in the comment section on what number you think you are on the Enneagram and the strength that you have as a result of knowing your Enneagram. And I also want to encourage you to like and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our upcoming content. It's going to be so fun. It's going to be amazing, and I'm sure you'll be inspired. Thank you so much.